Sphere. Could there be another scandal brewing in the heart of Parliament? Because the Chancellor, Rachel Reeves, she's been accused of misleading the British public by allegedly cooking up a £20 billion black hole that simply didn't exist. Now, the official forecasters chair, the OBR, said the Chancellor knew about revised predictions well before her budget, but Number 10 have completely dismissed these claims. What's the truth? Well, I'm joined in the studio by GB News' chief political correspondent, Katherine Forster. Katherine, this potentially could be a huge scandal. The situation is complicated. We were repeatedly told time after time after time, there's a £20 billion black hole that needs filling. That's why British taxpayers need to take the pain. 9 million dragged into higher tax brackets. 30 billions of tax rises in the budget this Wednesday. Now it turns out the black hole might not even have existed at all. Tell us all about it.
Yes, so in fact, the black hole didn't exist. It is quite extraordinary. So what's happened is that the Treasury Select Committee wrote to the Office for Budget Responsibility and said, we want the information about who you told what when, basically. And the OBR have sent through what they told the Treasury. So on the 17th of September, they told the Treasury that even though there was this £16 billion downgrade in what they'd have available because of productivity not being so good and all the rest of it, that would be largely offset by what the IFS called stonking tax receipts much higher than they expected. And then by the 31st of October, they told the Treasury that actually they would have a net positive of 4.2 billion. So they were 4.2 billion up at that point. And yet, on November the 4th, the Chancellor took the extraordinary step of holding a press conference early in the morning, speaking to the nation, talking about these productivity downgrades, very difficult choices, priming us, we thought at the time, for raising income tax. They didn't do that. A week or so later, we were told that the facts had changed, but the facts had not changed. And Paul Johnston, who used to head the Institute for Fiscal Studies, has said that he thinks that probably Reeves misled. I think the press conference was probably misleading. He goes on to say it was designed to confirm a narrative that there was a fiscal black hole that needed to be filled with significant tax rises. In fact, as she knew at the time, no such hole existed. Now, apparently, the Treasury is saying this afternoon that basically they'd already decided that they needed this £20 billion buffer, the headroom, because they didn't have enough last time. So although there wasn't really a black hole, there sort of effectively was a black hole, but that is not what we were told.
It really is an incredible story. Who knew what? When did they know it? And is there a case here, if the Chancellor knew, and we're not saying she did, if the Chancellor knew there wasn't a black hole and yet went on to taxes for 30 billions, the book has to stop somewhere. Heads need to roll.
I think this is potentially extremely serious at a time when people's trust in politicians is on the floor. And, yeah, we don't know the ins and outs, but they stood there and they said one thing. Now, I asked at the lobby briefing yesterday, because the Institute for Fiscal Studies had said there was no fiscal repair job. And I said, you've chosen to put up taxes on working people to fund welfare spending. And they said, we have made choices. Largely, we wanted this buffer, this 20 billion buffer. But also, look, there was a lot of spending, 3 billion on scrapping the two-child benefit cap, 5 billion because they couldn't get the welfare cuts through their backbenchers. There was a lot of welfare spending. Those were choices that the government has made. And, they are taxes on working people, no matter how they want to spin them.
What a state of affairs. Thank you very much, Katherine Forster. Now, what will this mean for the future of the Labour Party?
Every time you're online, your money and your identity are at risk. Scams now make up nearly 40% of all crime in the UK. That's thousands of attacks every single day. In Britain, someone has their identity stolen every 2 minutes, leaving victims with wrecked finances and years of stress. The threat is real, and you could be next. ExpressVPN is your shield against criminals. It locks down your devices, hiding your personal information and financial details from hackers, scammers, and anyone else looking to exploit you. So whether you're checking your bank, shopping, or just browsing, ExpressVPN makes you invisible to prying eyes trying to steal your money and your identity. ExpressVPN shields your data with military-grade AES 256 encryption. That's the same standard trusted by the US government to guard classified information. This is the highest level of online security you can get. So don't wait for disaster. Secure up to 14 devices at once and get powerful password protection. Real support is available 24/7 because cybercrime never sleeps. Save up to 73% on annual plans today. Every moment you hesitate is another moment you're exposed. Protect your money and protect your identity. Get ExpressVPN right now.
Well, a poll is out from Budget Day to give us an early glimpse of the direction of travel. It's conducted by Find Out Now, and I'm joined by the head of research at Find Out Now. That is Tyrone Sermon. Tyrone, always a pleasure to have your company. This poll, if I understand, was conducted on Budget Day, the 26th itself. So we might get more of a flavour perhaps on Sunday about when reality bites and people really get their teeth around what the tax rises mean for them. But it's still a disastrous poll for the Labour Party. They are pushed into fourth position in your poll on 15%. Tell us all about it.
Sure. So it's worth saying that the fieldwork there was conducted entirely after the budget on Budget Day, just within a couple of hours. And I think the interesting thing to note is that the Labour Party are in fourth place. That's a record low for a governing party. And we really shouldn't lose sight of that. But this was also true a month ago. I just think it's fascinating that so much of the anticipation and response to the budget was already priced in by the public. So although there was a lot of anticipation, by the time the budget came, people's views haven't really changed. Labour is still doing as badly as they were a month ago, 2 months ago, 3 months ago.
And we're seeing there Labour on 15%, Reform on 31%, the Conservatives having a 1 point bump upwards to 18%, the Greens still third on 17%. And when you shake this down to work out the parliamentary seats, I put this through the electoral calculus machine just to see what that will give us. I think we can get those numbers up on screen now, and we can see the map of Britain showing again more grim reading for the Labour Party. They're down, in my prediction, to 37 seats, Tyrone. This is a consistent pattern now. You can say, it's only one poll, but we are seeing momentum. We're seeing trends, and the direction of travel for the Labour Party, Tyrone, it's disastrous.
Yeah, I think because we run these polls week and week, we become almost desensitized to how historic this is. Like, there's been some tracker polling done by some other companies, such as Ipsos, showing that, Rachel Reeves as Chancellor is the least popular Chancellor since they started running polling in the 1970s. Keir Starmer is the least popular Prime Minister since they started running polling in the 70s. So although we've got used to these very bad polls for Labour, we have to really appreciate this is absolutely terrible. But I feel like probably until next May, when we have a series of elections which confirm that the polls are right, probably it won't sink in fully amongst either the public or politicians or the media.
Now, Tyrone, I also ran this through the machine to find out what it meant for the individual parliamentarians. I do it every week now, and I've got that old familiar feeling of a Labour Party cabinet wipeout. Let's get that on the screens right now. You can see here Sir Keir Starmer would lose his seat to the Green Party, the first sitting Prime Minister in history to lose his seat. David Lammy likewise meeting the same fate, down to the Greens. Rachel Reeves, the Chancellor, going down to Reform. Same with Yvette Cooper, Shabana Mahmood losing to Yvette Cooper. We can rattle through the rest of them there. The consistent pattern is this. Only one of them this time, Peter Kyle there, would avoid losing his seat. And in the past two polls, he lost to the Greens. This is carnage, again, Tyrone, the kind of thing we haven't seen ever in political history.
Exactly. I think one of the big movements we've seen in the last 3 months since Zach Walensky was elected leader is that a lot of these disaffected Labour voters who didn't really have anywhere to go to now have a natural home they can vote for. And the Greens have very much been rising in the polls. And I think the one takeaway that I would invite people to reflect on is that most of the public, they don't really watch the news that often. They're not following politics all too well. So the fact that everyone kind of hyped up this budget and there's all these changes to hopefully bring these left-wing voters back, a lot of people, their decisions are made. They're probably not going to change their vote. And I think it's fair to say that the poll numbers, sure, they haven't got particularly worse since last week or the previous weeks with the budget, but the budget also would have maybe been an opportunity to bring some of these people back, and that just clearly hasn't materialized. So we'll have to wait over the coming weeks and months to see what the lasting impacts on public impressions are. But right now, Labour started in a very bad position and, well, they're still in one.
And Tyrone, thank you for clarifying for me that this polling did take place after the budget, but it still yet might get worse as the true nature of the impact on individual people's finances sinks in. And we'll see some more polls later over the weekend. Tyrone Sermon, thank you as ever for giving us your expertise on GB News. I sincerely appreciate it. Head of research there at Find Out Now. Thank you very much.
Thank you.